number one, at Capital Velocity Investments, we stick with a value add concept whenever we're searching for a property. What are the two ways that we add value when we go into a property?
The first is to professionalize management, improve efficiency of turnover, of retention, of response to tenant needs, all of that, which plays into the second one, to improve the property. Renovations, repair, prettyifying will allow you to increase rents to go in tandem with providing a better service overall. Those are the two main ways in which we add value. Hello. Welcome to the Get Invested podcast, a podcast where I, Jordan Stone, person who doesn't know about investing, talks to my best friend and business partner, Matthias Wilson, who does know about investing, and hopefully he teaches me things. This has been the concept from the beginning, and today, excitingly, we're going to see whether or not I have actually learned anything or not.
Test day.
Today is test day. For any of you who it's been a while since you've taken a test or a quiz or anything like that, as a former teacher, I can tell you there's various ways in which you prepare. This one, there was no preparing because it was really just like, have you done your job? I was provided no review sheet.
That's right.
There was no, here's the topics. There was nothing. It's a lot like my comprehensive exams when I was going for my PhD, where it's just like, know all the things, hence the word comprehensive. Now, in light of this situation, I've had to get into student mode, got my hoodie on. You know, Georgia was where I last took institutional tests. I guess I just took some for certifications, but granted, the last time I had to do an oral test was my dissertation defense. And I was, of course, dressed very differently than this, but I'm just in the mindset.
Say, you probably weren't wearing a hoodie.
I got the J's on. You know, I'm a student. I'm going to just lean back, be nonchalant about it. Yeah. But before we jump in, Matthias, I'm going to do a procrastination, a classic student move.
Sure.
I just need to talk to you about this coffee mug. And I need to talk to you about the design of coffee mugs in general. Okay. As you know, I have many, many coffee mugs, right? And students used to buy them for me, and it became a whole thing, and it was lovely and wonderful. But the thing about it is, so many of the coffee mugs, most people are right-handed, right? That's the dominant hand. Whatever the coffee mug says, it's always like facing towards you when you're drinking, which doesn't make sense. It's your coffee mug. You know what it says. Part of it's to show other people like, haha, I'm funny. Look at this, right? So this one obviously was made by my lovely wife. Here's one of our engagement photos.
Okay.
But let's just think this through. Which would I prefer to look at every time I look at my coffee mug? A sweet picture of the two of us, or be reminded of my name? Right? So I don't need to be reminded of my name. I would like to look at this lovely picture. So I don't think it's her fault. I think it's just the design's fault. It doesn't. I got to switch to left hand. I just, you
have to drink left. Yeah, you have to be a left-handed drinker, which I find myself. The other fix for that would be to literally just have one thing on both sides, the same thing on either or. So it's like an ambidextrous, but obviously you lose out on potential content that way if you're limiting yourself.
And also people who are making these to make money, clearly two-sided is going to be more expensive than one. Yeah, when I was ordering t-shirts for the debate, it was so much more to put something on the back and the front, but. Yeah, I just, so I guess I'm going to have to just do this. And then it's going to feel like on the pod that I'm just trying to show everybody my name. It's not true. I just want to see this lovely picture of my then fiance, now wife. Anywho, okay,
I see.
That's it. I'm done procrastinating. All right, tell everybody how this is going to work.
Yeah, so basically I've written down eight questions, well, kind of topics, we'll say. They're not always going to be like one word, quick answers. It's going to be demonstrate that you understand this concept kind of
Clearly.
Thing. And I'll read it off to Jordan, and he will either impress us with his wondrous learning, or he will not, and I shall correct him on the spot, and we will together assess whether or not he has learned said topic or said concept across the 8. So we'll basically have learned, not learned as we move along through the quiz.
Can I make one suggestion?
Sure.
On the learn, not learned. Can we add an adjective to both categories, or two adjectives actually? Can it be impressively learned and unimpressively learned, or impressively unlearned?
I like that
Impressive,
one.
like it's so bad that it's impressive how much I
How
didn't learn.
not learned you did. Yeah.
That was
Sure.
impressively not learned.
Okay.
So impressively learned or learned, not learned, impressively not learned. There
Sure.
we go. All right.
Sure.
Okay.
Well,
Now, guys, here's the key, just to keep you on the edge of your seats. Well, unless you're driving, sit where you need to have correct distance from your gas pedal and brake pedal. But otherwise, if I don't get more learned than not learned, I am getting fired at the end of this podcast. So just keep that.
that'll be the end. Everything will go dark.
All right, let's do this.
All right. So number one. Basically, so I'll kind of phrase each question if it needs it. We do here at Capital Velocity Investments. We typically stick with a value add concept whenever we're searching for a property. So I'm going to ask you when we talk about this, what are the two ways that when we underwrite that we're assuming we're going to add value? What are the two things that we do when we go into a property? The two main things, let's say.
The two main things to add value.
Mm-hmm.
The first is to professionalize management, which can mean a number of different things.
Mm-hmm.
It means improve efficiency of turnover, improve efficiency maybe of retention, improve efficiency of grounds, of response to tenant needs, all of that, which plays into the second one, which is to improve the property, whether that be renovations, repair, prettyifying, whatever it may be. To renovate something will allow you to increase rents, to go in tandem with the professionalization, where you are providing a better service overall. Those are the two main ways in which we add value.
That is almost word for word a very correct answer. So I'm gonna go ahead and I felt like I was gonna have to explain that more once we got into the answering, but you pretty much said exactly what it is. In management, we basically fix operations and we fix the property. Those are the two ways to do it. So that's 100% correct. That is we'll go ahead and call that impressively learned. Impressively.
Heyo, imp learned right there. Got it. Okay, that's one down. All right.
Number two.
So I guess maybe I need to miss some so we can have a conversation. That was kind of the goal.
Well,
here,
no, if you know them all, you know them all. But I'm pretty confident we'll have some discussion points. Okay, this one is going to be a pretty obvious as well. So total return and AAR, average annual return, what are they and how are they computed?
We are speaking on the basis of an individual investor.
An investment, yeah. How do you calculate the total return of an investment, and how do you calculate the average annual return of the investment?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say up front that this is something that I've seen both ways, and I think I'm confused about when it's one or the other, because I have definitely seen total return listed where it includes the original capital injection. Right.
Gotcha.
And then there's another way in which you could calculate it where it does not include, say, that original 50,000. The way that you calculate it, can I just put that over to the side? Like, you either do include that or you don't. Like, because theoretically you could lose that money. So it is a return, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is original investment.
For this purposes, for this discussion, let's say that money is included. So include the return of the original outlay.
So you start with original investment, and then you're going to add how much distribution, the amount of distributions they received over the total time of the investment, which is obviously, income. Income is generated, it's sent out to investors. Then when it comes to the end, it is they're going to get 70%. They're going to get their part of the 70% of the equity generated. That is the value added to the property. So if a property was worth $5 million and then they sold for $7 million, however much, you got to figure out loans and all that stuff, but however much cash is left over, however much of that they got. So you add their cash out, their original investment, and the amount of income they made, the distributions they made over that time. That is total return.
Right, but it's expressed as a percentage though, right? So it's basically,
it is a percentage would be like how much, hopefully, how much in response to the original investment right? So their percentage return will be calculated based on how much more
it's a factor
than
of their original
investment, an equity multiple, if you will, right? So did they make 1.8 times their money, 1.5, 2 times their money? You can put that in percentages, or you can put that in a multiple. Now, average annual return. You asked me, I think, about the easiest one of all these 3-letter things. I think that is literally just, I'm pretty sure, the amount of money they made, not counting their original investment, but the on top of, I believe, divided over the many years, right? So if you took their original investment, the percentage would be much. Hold on. No, it's the entire thing that they made divided by the amount of years. Yeah. It's the whole thing divided by the amount of years, how much they made each year based on their original investment.
So the total return divided by a number of years is pretty much how you get to the AAR. But what I always like to say, you're correct. We'll give you a.
I think that's a learned.
We'll give you.
There's no way.
Learned, but the thing I always say is average annual return is basically just a way to annualize the overall return, because you didn't actually make 30%. You know, if the average annual return is 30%, you didn't actually make that each year. It's just if you divided the total amount that you got across, it would be a 30% return each year. But obviously, it's weighted towards all the big cash transaction events. So cool. Okay, so learned. What are the big ways that we produce tax savings for people in these investments?
The biggest one is tax deferment through depreciation, i.e., that they've invested money in a property. We had to spend a lot of money to upgrade that property. They're not getting any money returned. Therefore, they get to say that they lost money the first couple of years of their investment. I mean, that's at least how you do a K-1. Right.
Sure. We'll get more into that. So what is the kind of one thing that we do to help that depreciation? Do you remember what it's called?
I don't remember what it's called. I know it's
a thing we do the year we buy a property.
I mean, we start renovating and we spend a lot of money. No, the income is not there.
Well, I mean, that's true. Spending a lot of money doesn't. I mean, you could call it a capital expenditure, and that's not necessarily a tax deduction. You depreciate the capital expenditures too. But what I was looking for is the cost segregation study that we do that allows us to speed up that depreciation in the first year.
Well, let's talk about cost segregation study. I'm not sure how much we've ever actually.
That's the engineering study that we do that breaks down an asset according to every individual object in that asset. So we get a building, we could depreciate the whole building minus the land. We depreciate that in a straight line. But if we do a cost seg study, now we can depreciate the roof according to its schedule. We can depreciate the countertops, the appliances, all that stuff. That's called a cost segregation study.
So that's the first way.
It's depreciation is what gives us, one of the big tax. That's how we get tax savings to people, is depreciation is the main thing. And then accelerated depreciation through a cost segregation study is the one bonus kicker that we do. So depreciation is a correct answer, but the cost segregation study is what allows us to bring all that up front to the first year.
So I did say a depreciation. I clearly didn't entirely understand how that works.
Yeah, it's not so much that, I mean, you're taxed on the income a property makes, not necessarily whether you got distributions or anything. So if the property is making income over expenses, you're going to be taxed on that. However, the biggest deduction one of the big deductions that you can make against is a cost. The IRS views it as an expense, is that depreciation. So it's a paper loss. Most of the time, it'll take you below zero and into negative territory, especially in the first year of depreciation. But if you do a cost segregation study, now we're talking big negative territory, which is a tax write-off.
Because basically,
it can be used to offset future gains.
I always understood depreciation as being, make sure I'm right on this, essentially just like, this thing is older now, therefore it is worth less, and it's been used more, so therefore it is worth less.
Usable life is what you're depreciating. Like everything according to the IRS has a usable life. Every object, whether or not it actually lives longer or not, is irrelevant. The IRS assumes that it is losing X amount of value per year, and the more you can delineate every dollar of the investment down to a specific object, the quicker you can accelerate, because some things have a much shorter lifespan than the building will. which is 27 and a half years for
right.
residential
I do
multifamily
remember the
property.
27 and a half years. Yes.
So speeding things up allows you to write off more upfront. Dollars today is always better than dollars tomorrow.
Well, unless you're thinking long-term investment.
It's still better because you can, even if you don't have the losses up front, it can offset your future gains.
No, I'm just talking about that. There's scenarios where you don't want necessarily to make the quick buck now. You want to make the
yeah. In terms of, but if it's the same dollar, you want to have that same dollar. If you're only going to get $1, you want that dollar as soon as possible.
Yeah. So I am. This is just me. I'm assuming that there's some kind of ledger out there that says this oven has this lifespan, or is it just all ovens have a
100%? It's literally copper wiring. IRS has said copper wiring has this life.
Okay, and so it's like
usable life.
Electrical oven has this lifespan. Gas oven has this lifespan. Electric water heater has this lifespan.
This type of material countertop has this lifespan, usable lifespan. This material of roof shingle, whatever it is, everything has the book is like this thick. It's like a freaking dictionary.
Yeah, sure.
If you ever it's crazy. It just has a bunch of tables. Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's time for your decision on category 3.
We'll call it's right down the middle. I'd say it was impressively not learned in that you forgot all about the cost segregation study, but the depreciation is the big way. So we'll give you a learned and a
this
not
is
learned
when
on the bonus
unimpressively
question.
learned would come in handy.
Unimpressively learned. We'll call it unimpressively learned. There you go. You could have impressed me by pulling cost segregation study.
You know what? As soon as you started explaining what it was, I was like, oh, man, I remember that because that was a fun combo. Like we talked about the massive particularities. All right, unimpressive. Look, I'm hitting all the things here, man. So I've already got impressively learned, and unimpressively learned. I've gotten 3 out of the what total?
Yeah.
There's, I guess,
the 4 possibilities.
Or 6 if you want to give me an unimpressively not learned or whatever. Okay. All right.
Okay. So number 4. What is the definition of an accredited investor?
An accredited investor is someone who...
There's 2 criteria that they can meet.
Either has a net worth, not including their primary residence, of $1 million plus, or they make $200,000 a year and have been making it and should be and can safely presume that they will be continuing to make it. Beyond that, there is some indication of like sophistication that this is where we might get into the haziness, where it's like you know what you're doing, you have done it before. It's not going to in any way threaten your, well, that's actually not accredited. That's just general well-being.
That's a question in our paperwork that's next to the accredited questions, but I think
those are
matter.
The 2.
Those are the 2. There's one more caveat. It's $200,000 per year individually, or $300,000 as a joint, as a spouse.
I knew there was $300,000 in there, and
household.
I was like, I can't. Yes, yeah. 200.
So if an individual makes over $200,000, or the household makes over $300,000, and presumes to keep doing it, so we'll give that a learn. That was solid. You came in good. Important to remember that it does not include the equity in your primary residence for the net worth requirement.
Because these days, I mean, that would be kind of cool. It'd make things a lot easier for a lot of people if it did, because they'd be getting there real fast.
Yeah, I mean, if you're both professionals, chances are you're probably pretty close. Well into a career. If you're both well into professional careers, $80K each is not unheard of. And
I was thinking, but if it could include your primary residence, you would get to like
that too.
Yeah.
If you've been working and putting money into a 401k for a while, then you're 10, 15 years, you should be pretty close. If you're
and that counts. I'm assuming like does a retirement count?
Everything net worth. Yeah, net worth is all future cash, current cash, assets that you have, everything. Roth IRAs and all that definitely count in that calculation. Just not the equity in your primary residence. Obviously, your net worth is calculated by the asset, whatever the asset's worth minus whatever debt you have on it. So if your car, let's say it's a $20,000 car, you owe $14,000 on it. Your equity in that is theoretical equity, obviously, but $6,000 would be your
sure. Yeah. Now,
And same with your house.
I mean, yeah. Are there going to be any follow-up questions about accredited versus unaccredited?
No.
If not, I was just going to say maybe we should so there's maximum 35 unaccredited investors in our type of syndication. That is a B as opposed to a 506C, which only allows accredited investors.
Wow, look at this bonus question. I was going to ask how many can you allow, how many non-accredited. That was one of the questions. So you impressively learned that. That was question number 8. I might have to think of a new question now.
Yeah, I think we should just put that in with
sure
with this one. So we're going 4 is learned.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Number 5.
What are the 2 biggest expenses in a property? Let's say you're looking at a trailing 12 or like a 12. You're looking at a yearly income statement. What are the 2 biggest expenses?
Insurance.
Okay.
Hold on. Are we lumping things in categories? Or does it have to be an individual line item?
It'll be a line item.
I want to say insurance and employment. Does it count? Are we counting?
Insurance is correct, is one of them. The other one is pretty much 2 things. Everything else is minuscule, typically, compared to these 2.
Oh, it's debt service. Sorry, it's debt service.
Well, no, that's true. It could be, but when you look at a property, you don't consider debt service as part of it's not required in the operations of the property. You write it off as an expense on your company, the interest on your debt service. But for a property, it's not a property's expense. It's not included in the
trailing 12 would not have debt service because that has nothing to do with the property. That just has to do with you as the person who owns it.
Right.
True. Okay. Is this something that's covered or not covered?
What do you mean covered?
Oh, I mean, no, never mind.
There's only 3 things certain in life.
Well,
or
3. I thought there was just 2. Death and taxes.
2. Yeah. There you go. It's taxes. Taxes and insurance are the 2
property
biggest.
Taxes. Yeah. Property
are taxes. The 2 biggest line items and the ones you always got to account for. Obviously, we've been getting murdered on insurance. Taxes are taxes. You can't avoid them.
I was thinking 2 operationally, but that is, obviously that's it's a big one.
It's interesting because it doesn't, in the day-to-day operations, you don't ever think about tax because you're dealing with maintenance, you're dealing with employees, payroll, all that stuff. But for a property, the property taxes and the insurance are the 2 biggest items. So we'll give you we don't ever really talk about, hey, these are the 2 biggest expenses. I just was curious if you would know what they were.
Do we want to put?
So we'll give you an
unimpressively learned?
Unimpressively learned.
I'm okay with learned question mark, but unimpressed. I mean, sticking to our categories, unimpressively learned. All right. I've only got 1 impressively learned so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, I mean,
but you
I did already pre-answer a question. I pre-answered that 1 question, but whatever. Okay. All right. You need to come up with an 8th, though. Number 6.
If the cap rate is being compressed, what happens to the price of a property? You had to know this was coming.
I really should have. Yeah, I really should have definitely seen this.
Cap rate is going down.
Cap rate is going down. Compressed is going down. That means the price of the property is going up.
Correct. Yes. And that's because the cap rate, and this is the way, I always try to explain it this way, it is what the market is willing to accept in terms of a return for their money. So if a cap rate is 6%, they're willing to pay money to get a 6% return, enough money to get a 6% return. That is what they're paying. Now, if the cap rate goes down to 5%, that means the market is willing to pay more for a smaller return. They're accepting a smaller return on their money. That means
the price
they're paying more.
To purchase it is more. Yeah. Because this is really a consideration more. Well, it's a consideration on both ends because you want to make sure that it's when you sell, it's compressed. But in this kind of the way you described it, it's way more about projecting when buying.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is what it's willing now, and this is what it could be. Because if if you buy when it's based on really low, then
it's based on the income that the property is producing. So, we'll call that.
It's always good. It's always good to circle back to the cap rate.
Yeah, we'll call that impressively learned.
Yay!
You thought your way through
it. Text Vivek right now.
He's never going to believe it. Okay, so number 7. What is a preferred return?
Preferred return means that before an operator, syndicator, manager, whatever you want to call the person who's running the investment, managing the investment, can pay him or herself or the company or however that's set up, before they can pay themselves out of the income, they have to hit a certain level, a percentage that they have paid to the investors on their money. We like to do typically we offer 8% preferred return, which means that if there's only enough money to pay every person 6%, then the operator makes nothing on the money that has been raised, the income. They have to hit that 8% threshold for all investors before they can take a cut of the income, which is different than that is during distributions, if I'm not mistaken. That has nothing to do with selling and equity. That's a 70-30. So this is only when there's income, I believe, revenue to income. There's money to be distributed. They have to get 8% in this scenario before the operator gets anything.
True. It goes at a 70-30 split above the preferred return. Yes, so that's correct. The only thing you left out is that it's per year. So preferred return on your money for every year that it's in the property, there's a preferred return
which means that if they only got like 4% the first year, because, first year you're doing all the things, you have to make up that in the next year before that threshold is met. So you have to have 8% over the 2 years in that scenario before that threshold is met.
Yeah, so pretty good. I'll give you an impressively learned on that. You were good at that.
You're gonna have to make sure to send me like the questions or whatever, so I can make sure I remember when I build this out which ones I was, which topics were which.
Sure. Gotcha. Let's see. So my 8 was going to be how many non-accredited. Let's see. I have to think of a new one on the fly here.
I mean, look, you can just go. Why don't you just go to your Substack, Matthias Talks Investing, go to the Get Invested podcast tab and look at the titles, and maybe it'll jog your memory. That's Matthias Talks Investing on Substack.
That's true. I could do that.
You can find this Substack, among other places, on our website, capitalvelocityinvestments.com. Now would be a perfect time for me to segue into like an ad read if we had one.
We got to get some sponsors, man.
I know. I can probably just say the one from like Indeed or whatever. What is the one where they always find it? Yeah, for listening to all the podcasts. Yeah. Or ZipRecruiter. That's the other one.
Okay. I think I got a question here. Let me think about how I want to word it.
All right.
What are the 3 criteria for a market that we operate under?
Okay.
What do we basically? What 3 things what 3 boxes do we want to check in order to pull the trigger on buying a property?
All right. Well, there's
market specific, not property specific.
Okay. Job growth, landlord friendly. Well, I don't know how to say this. With the job growth, it has to be like, I feel like we say like things that are going to last for a long time, things that generate other types of jobs.
That all falls, we'll call that under the job growth umbrella, population growth and good industry, diverse population industry, growth, all that.
Job growth, landlord friendly.
Mm-hmm. Think for us specifically when I'm buying a property.
Jerry. But I don't think that's one of the ones you're looking for.
Nope.
I mean, it's in the path of progress.
Mm-hmm.
Is one. No crime, but that's part of the other parts of the consideration. I don't think that's what you're looking for. Let me think. You said population was covered with the job growth, right?
Yeah,
because we're looking for certain types of populations.
Metrics for we look at population, job growth metrics and stuff like that. So yeah, so if it checks that box, then
school districts
that counts as one.
Is that under the population?
Yeah. When we underwrite a market, the other thing I'm looking for is property management team, a management team that we can work with, a professional management team.
Yeah, you have
whether or not I can find one or I have one in that market,
right?
Because it could be the best market, but if I can't find good management, best laid plans kind of thing. So that would be those are the 3 things. So it's got to have the job growth metrics, population, all that stuff we talked about. It's got to be landlord friendly so that there's no political risk in that way. And then I got to have either have a team built or be able to build a team in that market.
That is kind of the sticking point a lot, that last one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All in all, I think that's I think you did pretty good. We'll call that an unimpressively
What do I get on that?
learned.
An unimpressively learned? Okay.
Yeah, I'm really glad we're getting to use that. That's fun.
Yeah, well, it's been learned. It's 3 times. Actually, I'm currently 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm 3 impressives and 3 unimpressives, and then 2 learns. No, not learned so far.
No, I think you've
Now, one that I was just thinking of because I'm cutting some clips out of it.
Mm-hmm.
This is a self-test. Is the due diligence checklist. Because there was 5 things, right? Like 5 important buckets, if you will.
Sure.
And I'm trying to remember them because I was just reading through this podcast because, like I said, I was doing clips, and it was like the state of the property, insurance quote. State of the property has to do with is it good? Is the land good?
Inspections.
Is the building's good? Inspections. Also, how much renovation is going to go into it, etc. Lender shopping. Let's see. There's lender, insurance, state of the property. Is property management one of those too?
I'd have to go back and go specifically on the list we were looking off of, but I think property management, probably management and personnel is probably one of them.
Here, let me pull up the key takeaways from that day. Let's see. And then, so if that's one, that's 4. Property, lender, insurance.
There's a big one you're missing.
I've looked at so many underwriting tables. I should know this. All right. Trying to think about all the things that we were dealing with. It's not seller.
It's the legal, the paperwork for the
SEC stuff. Yeah, get all that started. Yeah. See, I was like, I don't think I know all 5. I was pretty sure I knew most of them, but dang it. Yep, there you go. All right, let's see here. Let's just see what you said since I don't remember.
I'm wondering if funds and funding was the other one, like raising the money.
Well, no, it wasn't because it was specifically just like, does the property work? Not can we raise the money? Because you wouldn't ask for the money until, that's that's one of the timelines. That
sure.
I remember us talking about that, of course, but all right, let's look at key takeaways here. That was due diligence was 17. Let's pull it up here. Beautiful that we have these key takeaways. It was actually, so it was lender, insurance, property management, inspection, and then it was investors.
Investors, which is the SEC paperwork. That's the thing that I have to get going.
Okay.
We start that as soon as we get under contract. So it's all the same. That's exactly what I meant. I was wondering how I had phrased it when I was talking. Is it did I separate investors from the legal, or did I just lump it into one?
That was all the same because it was like secure the loan, but that's based on insurance in part, right? This is a property management, how's it being managed, inspection, deep dive on property. And then investors is like, of course, getting all the paperwork ready so that people can submit their sub-acts, their sub-agreements and everything. Okay. So, all right. Well, that was my quiz. I think considering it's
all you're learning.
Yeah, so I've got 2 learns, 3 unimpressively learns, and 3 impressively learns. So I think on the whole, that's like a solid B. If we were
if we were graded, it's B. Sure,
we'll give it a B. Okay, all right. Hey, that's passing.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So I get to keep my job. That's cool. All right, well, you get to see this checklist of what I learned and not learned. Maybe you got to quiz yourself as he was asking me. You were like, can I answer this? How much of this do I know? Or maybe you're just focused on my bumbling. Who knows? But we appreciate you hanging out.
Sure.
And being part of this oral examination of mine. And as always, if you feel so inclined, please like, star, thumbs up, 5-star, restack, etc. You can, I think on Spotify now, you can even leave comments. We encourage all kinds of comments on Substack, Spotify, wherever. We'd love to hear what you think about everything and what you would like to hear about, or, whether or not you want to advocate for Matthias to wear something other than a polo. There's all kinds of things you can weigh in on, and we will appreciate all of them. But otherwise, until next time, I'm Jordan. That's Matthias. And this was the Get Invested podcast.
If you wanna be the teacher's pet, well, baby, you just better forget it. Rock out the reason, rock out the rhyme. You better get me to school on time. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there.